We are back on Inside Politics. Our guests today, Larry Woods and Bill Phillips. They're both political analysts. Larry on the Democratic side, Bill on the Republican side. Let's talk about a bipartisan race in Nashville, at least one without party label. That's the emerging Nashville mayor's race. Three major opponents are in the field opposing incumbent Mayor David Briley in the August 1st election. How do both of you handicap the race at this point? Who's the front runner and who might be the top challengers?
Well, I think the incumbent has the advantage, and you're seeing signs of that he has awakened to that fact and is beginning to do some things to show I'm in charge.
Well, Larry, who does he have to fear the most? Because if you don't get a 50% plus one vote majority in the August 1st primary, then you have to go into a second race against the second place finisher. You have to get a majority to win outright.
I think candidate Carol Swain's ceiling is 25-28%. Which, if things break against Mayor Briley, he could be in a runoff, and it could be against Swain, and he'll win that runoff if it's against Swain, in my judgment, because there's a ceiling there she's not going to be able to get beyond, I don't think. However, if it's a runoff with Briley against Cooper, now it becomes more of a toss-up. I think Briley's clearly ahead, and if he can win without a runoff, fine.
So you see Cooper. On the other Cooper would be more of the challenger than John Ray Clemens, the state representative.
Because Cooper's got the money to self-finance if he has to. Because Cooper has had a lower profile, which in some ways that slows him down. In other ways, it helps him a lot. It means he can approach some of these issues from a fresh perspective. If I were probably the one I would not want the runoff with would be John Cooper.
Bill, all campaigns and elections are different, but 4 years ago when the mayor's office was open, we had 6 candidates, major candidates in the field, and everybody was all over television by now. There's not a single ad that started yet as of this weekend for the races. So if Cooper needs to get out and start getting his name recognition and support, why is he not already on the air?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I don't have an answer because I would be on the air.
I'm with you, Bill. Yeah. If I'm the new guy in the election cycle, which everybody except Briley is the new guy in the sense we're talking about, it's time to be up with at least a biography introduction kind of thing, even if you hold back most of your gunpowder for later.
This is all being done in the context of the council also approving a budget that the mayor has submitted. Larry, there's been some controversial portions of that, the privatization of the downtown parking system and also the potential sale of the downtown energy system. It was announced just in the last few hours that the mayor is putting off the privatization plan for parking until after the budget. Is that a good move, and where does he find the $30 million he was going to use that to help balance the budget?
I think that was a brilliant move, and where's he going to find the money? I understand secondhand that he's going to find the money by asking MDHA to restructure the TIF financing that's already in place.
Bill, what are you hearing?
Well, I think that's right. They're going to find a way to cover that $30 million that they were betting on in a badly executed plan on the parking. On the energy plant, that doesn't impact everybody, but parking, I don't know how many people I've heard, well, that's it, I'm never going downtown again.
But it is extra money for the budget. If they don't do that, that's also money he's going to have to find to make up someplace if it doesn't happen until later in the budget year going forward and past July.
Well, the real advantage, though, is if they go to the TIF money basically to do it, that's something they potentially could go back to in recurring years, whereas a parking meter, maybe it's out there in future years, maybe it's not, nobody really knows.
A big focus has also been employee salaries. The mayor had to negate a 3% raise that was scheduled for next year. He's come back with a 3% raise this year, but teachers and others want much larger raises, particularly in the schools area. Some council members for the second year in a row are proposing their own property tax hike to do that. This is an election year. The council would be voting on this budget and or a tax increase within 6 weeks of when they're on the ballot. There are at least 2/3 of the current council that are on the ballot. What are the chances of a property tax increase passing in an election year?
Well, they haven't had much success, and actually they haven't had the backbone to try it in a number of years now because
we tried it last year and it fell about 3 or 4 votes short.
Right.
Bob Mendez has worked, or council member Bob Mendez has worked really hard on it. If you read his website, there's some really interesting reading that he explains in non-accounting language where any of us can understand it. I would hope that some of his ideas would prevail. I'm very doubtful with the election in August that many council members are going to step up a month beforehand and say, I'm raising your taxes.
You mentioned, Larry, Carol Swain. She's gotten a lot of flack, both last year when she ran and this year, about her past comments about Muslims. She's now saying that she has some regrets about what she said. She said what she said has been twisted in some ways, but she's now visited the local Islamic center. That seemed to be getting pushback in both directions on that. If she thought that was going to be a positive move for her, even some of her own supporters are saying maybe not.
I agree. I have to say that over the last 20 years or so, I've read many op-ed, letters to the editor, speeches by Professor Carol Swain at Vanderbilt, and I think I can safely say I've disagreed with every one of them, 95% of them at least. So I'm glad to see her changing her mind. It's always good to see people wake up. I don't think that's going to help her get votes. I think it's going to cost her.
I'm shocked that he's been against everything that she has said. However, she is not executing the ability to conduct a campaign, even though she may be very intellectual and educated in politics.
In the area of John Ray Clemens, he is now beginning to, he had some problem early on because of his legislative duties from being able to raise money. He is now beginning to get some endorsements from several labor groups. What are the significance of that for him as he starts to pull his campaign together for these last 2 months?
Well, my experience when I was in the mayor's office was that the public employee associations or unions, like they want to be called, they don't carry the strength they did at one time. It's still influential, but when you start getting endorsements, it doesn't hurt you necessarily, but sometimes it doesn't help you as much as you'd like.
Let's take a break. We're talking with Bill Phillips and Larry Woods. We're talking about local politics. We talked about national politics first. We'll go to the State House after that with the scandal going up on Capitol Hill. Back with more after you watch these messages.